The silence in the kitchen wasn't just quiet. It was heavy, like the air before a storm. I stood at the counter, the knife trembling in my hand as I sliced onions for the chili Jenna had been craving. The blade caught the dim light of the overhead lamp, but the tears stinging my eyes weren't from the onions. They came from the words looping in my head, words that didn't belong to me. You shine when you wear this, B. A plain white card, tucked in her suitcase, next to a velvet box with a man's watch. Expensive. Silver band, black dial. Not mine. It was a Tuesday just past 6 in the evening. I remember because the clock on the stove glowed 6:03 when I heard the front door creak open. Jenna wasn't supposed to be home until tomorrow. She'd been in Houston for 4 days, some real estate conference she'd been buzzing about for weeks. Travel was her thing, part of the job, part of her ambition. I'd always admired that about her, how she climbed the ladder, landed that big promotion last fall, and never looked back. We'd even laughed about how her paycheck dwarfed mine now. It never bothered me. I was proud, or so I thought. Hey, babe, her voice called out, bright and casual, like showing up a day early was no big deal. I turned, knife still in hand, and there she was in the doorway, tight jeans, blazer, heels clicking on the hardwood. Her smile was wide, dazzling, the kind you give when you got good news. Or when you're hiding something. You're home, I asked, my voice catching as I did a double take. Yeah, switch my flight, she said, shrugging like it was nothing. Finished early and thought, why not come back to my favorite guy? She crossed the room, kissed me lightly, too lightly for 4 days apart, and dropped her suitcase by the stairs. The kiss felt like a brush from a stranger, not the woman I'd built a life with. I stood there, onions forgotten, as she headed upstairs to shower, her heels echoing in the quiet house. Jenna wasn't spontaneous. She lived by lists, calendars, color-coded plans. Surprises weren't her style. So why this? Why now? A small, sharp instinct pricked at me, but I pushed it down. People can change, right? It's not a crime to come home early. I turned back to the chili, stirring the pot, trying to focus on the sizzle of the meat. But my mind wouldn't settle. I remembered she'd mentioned needing her phone charger earlier that week. Figured I'd grab it from her bag, be the helpful husband. Her suitcase was still by the stairs, half unzipped, a wrinkled blouse spilling out. I reached in, past a protein bar and a folded scarf. And that's when I saw it, a small velvet box, black, tucked in the corner. My fingers brushed it, and curiosity got the better of me. I flipped it open. Inside was a watch, sleek, heavy, the kind that costs hundreds, maybe more. I'm no watch guy, but I know quality. Under it, a card, folded once, no envelope. I opened it. You shine when you wear this, B. The handwriting was neat, deliberate, not hers. My stomach dropped. Who the hell was B? Why was my wife carrying a man's watch with a note like that? I stood frozen, the card shaking in my hand, as the sound of the shower hummed upstairs. My first thought was there had to be an explanation. A gift for a colleague, a prize from the conference, something innocent. But the words weren't innocent. They were intimate, admiring, the kind you don't write to just anyone. I closed the box, slid it back exactly where it was, and sat on the bottom stair, staring at the wall. The house felt colder, the air thicker. 6 years of marriage, 8 years together, flashed through my mind. Jenna baking cookies with my niece, rubbing my shoulders after a long day, laughing at my terrible puns. That Jenna wouldn't do this. But this Jenna came home a day early, kissed me like an acquaintance, and carried a secret in her bag. The shower stopped. I bolted back to the kitchen, heart pounding, and grabbed the knife again, pretending I hadn't just stumbled into a crack in my world. She came down minutes later, wrapped in a robe, hair in a towel, looking too relaxed. Dinner smells amazing, she said, sliding her arms around my waist. Missed you. Her warmth pressed against me, but I felt nothing but ice. You said the conference was till tomorrow, I said, keeping my voice steady. Yeah, technically, but we wrapped up early. Last day's just fluff, motivational talks, icebreakers. Figured I'd rather be here. She grabbed a beer from the fridge, her laugh light, practiced. Could have texted, but I wanted to surprise you. I nodded, forcing a smile. Nice surprise. She leaned against the counter, sipping her beer, her posture too polished, her smile too curated. I stirred the chili, watching her from the corner of my eye. Something was off. Her eyes didn't meet mine the way they used to. I tested the water. So, win anything at this thing? Prizes, gift cards, anything cool? Her eyes flicked up, just for a second, then she laughed, too fast. Oh yeah, my team wants some trivia thing. Dumb stuff, coffee mugs, earbuds. Someone got a watch, I think. Like, who give a watch as a prize, right? She set her beer down, her fingers lingering on the bottle. My breath caught. You got the watch? Nah, it was just in the prize pile. Nothing fancy, probably some sponsored junk. She stepped forward, kissed my cheek. Don't get all suspicious just 'cause I was on a few days. It was boring work stuff, promise. Her words were smooth, rehearsed, but they didn't land. I shrugged, playing along. Just curious? You don't usually bring stuff home. She didn't answer, just changed the topic, launching into a story about a hotel with no hot water. I nodded, smiled, but all I could hear was that card in my head. You shine when you wear this, B. It wasn't a prize. It was a gift, heavy with meaning. And B wasn't a co-worker or a friend. B was someone who made her smile in a way I hadn't seen in months. That night, I lay awake, her soft snores beside me a cruel reminder of how close we were, yet how far apart. The ceiling stared back, unyielding, as my mind raced. I wanted to believe her, to trust the woman I loved. But doubt doesn't sit quietly. It grows, itches, whispers. Are you sure? The night stretched on, endless. Jenna's soft breathing filled the bedroom, but it only deepened the ache in my chest. I stared at the ceiling, the shadows shifting like my thoughts. You shine when you wear this, B. The words burned, each syllable a splinter under my skin. I wanted to shake her awake, demand answers, but what would I say? Who's B? Why is this watch in your bag? The thought of her laughing it off, calling me paranoid, kept me silent. Doubt was a beast, gnawing at the edges of our 8 years together. Years of shared coffee mornings, road trips, her hand in mine during my dad's funeral. Could that Jenna really hide a secret this sharp? By morning, the house felt different, like it was holding its breath. Jenna was up before me, humming in the kitchen, the scent of coffee drifting upstairs. I pulled on a shirt and went down, finding her at the counter, hair tied back, wearing my old college hoodie. She looked like the woman I married, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Morning, she said, sliding a mug toward me. Sleep okay? Fine, I lied, taking the coffee. My fingers brushed hers, and I flinched, the memory of that card flashing like a warning. She didn't notice, already scrolling her phone, face down as always now. I watched her, searching for a crack in her calm. A nervous glance, a too quick laugh. Nothing, just routine. She kissed me goodbye, said she'd be late for a team debrief, and left, her perfume lingering. Not her usual floral scent, but something sharper, muskier. I noticed it weeks ago, brushed it off when she said she'd tested a sample at the mall. But Jenna hated malls. She was an Amazon devotee. Why had I ignored that? The door clicked shut, and I was alone with my thoughts. They weren't kind. I paced the living room, replaying last night's conversation. Her breezy dismissal of the watch, sponsored junk, felt too polished, like a line she'd practiced. Then there was the receipt I'd found a month back, tucked in her car's glove box. A dinner in Atlanta, 2 entrees, a bottle of Pinot Noir from a vineyard we'd visited together. She'd said she was in Savannah that day, grabbing lunch at her office cafe. The timestamp said 8:17 p.m. Why Atlanta? Why lie? I sank onto the couch, my laptop open on the coffee table. Her password was still our dog's name plus her birth year. She never thought I'd look. I didn't want to be this guy, snooping, suspicious, but the card had changed everything. I clicked into her cloud storage, heart pounding. Folders for work, recipes, travel plans. Then I saw it. A folder labeled personal. I opened it, and there he was. Brandon. Hundreds of messages, photos, voice notes. My hands went cold. Miss you already. Wish you were here. Her words, not to me. He's still clueless, she'd written 2 weeks ago. I scrolled. Each message a punch. A photo of her in a hotel mirror, wearing a dress I didn't recognize. For your eyes only, the caption read. Another of them by a fountain, her head on his shoulder. My throat tightened. I clicked a spreadsheet labeled FH budget. Future home. Color-coded, with down payments, furniture costs, and a line item. Mark's equity contribution. She was using me to bankroll their life. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there, the screen's glow burning my eyes. The house was silent, but it screamed betrayal. I downloaded everything. Texts, photos, the spreadsheet, backing it up to a secure drive. My hands moved mechanically, like they belonged to someone else. I wasn't just gathering evidence. I was building a shield, something to hold on to when she tried to twist the truth. I needed air, perspective, anything to stop the spiral. I drove to Nate's pub, a dive bar on the edge of Savannah where the beer was cheap and the lighting forgiving. Nate, my friend since college, was behind the counter, wiping glasses. His graying hair and easy grin made him look like he'd seen it all and judged none of it. "You look like hell," he said, sliding a water my way instead of whiskey. "What's up?" I hesitated, then let it spill. The watch, the card, the lies piling up like bricks. Nate listened, his face steady, no pity, just focus. When I finished, he leaned on the counter. "You're not crazy, Mark, but you need the truth, or it'll eat you alive." He paused, then added, "Whatever you find, you're stronger than you think." His words stuck a lifeline in the fog. I nodded, thanked him, and left, the weight still there, but less suffocating. Back home, I sat in my car, staring at the house. Our house, where we'd hosted game nights, planned a future. Now it felt like a stage, and I was the only one not in on the script. That evening, Jenna texted she was going to client dinner. "Some couple looking to relocate," she said. 4-bedroom in Brookhaven. He's in tech. She's pregnant. Details poured out like she was selling me the story. I replied, "Sounds good. Have fun." But I didn't buy it. I called her office, pretending to confirm a meeting. Her manager, Lori, mentioned Jenna was off this weekend, probably out of town with friends. My stomach twisted. No client dinner. Another lie. She came home to get ready, wearing a navy dress I'd never seen, her makeup flawless, hair blown out. "Don't wait up," she said, kissing my cheek, her lips cold. I gave her a 10-minute head start, then called a cab. I didn't know where she was going, but I knew it wasn't Brookhaven. The cab driver, an older guy with a gray mustache, glanced at me in a mirror. "You okay, son?" I nodded, my jaw tight. We pulled up near Leona's, a bistro downtown with dim lights and jazz on Saturdays. Through the window, I saw her. Jenna, at a table near the front with him. Brandon. They were laughing, their chairs angled close, his hand brushing hers. She didn't pull away. My chest burned, but I stayed calm, snapping photos, wide shot, close up, one with the restaurant's name. Each click felt like a nail in the coffin of our marriage. They stood, her adjusting his tie, his hand on her back. They didn't go to a hotel. They walked to her office building, her badge unlocking the door. It was 8 p.m. on a Saturday, the lights off, her name on the wall. She brought him into her world, and that hurt worse than anything. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. The cab ride home was silent, the driver's eyes kind, but unquestioning. I stared out the window, the city blurring, and realized I wasn't just losing her. I was losing the man I thought I was. The house was too quiet when I got back, the kind of silence that presses against your skull. I poured a glass of water, sat at the kitchen counter, and stared at the front door, waiting for Jenna to walk through it, her lies polished and ready. My phone buzzed with the photos I'd taken, Jenna and Brandon, their laughter frozen in time, her hand adjusting his tie. Each image was a shard of glass, cutting deeper with every glance. I copied them to a private drive, then recorded a voice memo, my voice low, steady. Saturday, 8:03 p.m. Leona's. Jenna with a man, not a client. They went to her office. I needed the facts clear, not for her, but for me, to anchor myself when doubt crept back in. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, lights off, pretending to be asleep when Jenna slipped in near midnight. She moved like a ghost, setting her purse down softly, tiptoeing to the guest room without a word. No kiss, no touch, just distance. The guest room door clicked shut, and that was it. Confirmation sharper than any confession. She thought she was good hiding, but lies leak like water through a cracked dam. The buzzing phone that stopped, the musky perfume, the Atlanta receipt, they weren't accidents. They were her script, and I'd been blind to the lines. Morning came, gray and heavy. I was up first, making coffee, the ritual of flimsy tether to normalcy. Jenna appeared later, still in last night's clothes, eyes puffy, hair tangled. She grabbed a mug, avoiding my gaze. "Morning," she mumbled, her voice flat. "Morning," I replied, no warmth, just routine. She curled up on the couch, scrolling her phone, face down as always. I watched her, wondering if she was texting him, Brandon, planning their next move. The thought twisted like a knife. but I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more than photos, more than a card. I needed proof she couldn't dodge. She left for yoga at 10, her gym bag slung over her shoulder, the same fake smile from yesterday. "See you later," she called, and I nodded, already planning my next step. Her laptop was still on the dining table, unlocked, her trust in me a cruel irony. I dove back in her cloud storage, deeper this time. The personal folder was a goldmine of betrayal. Months of messages, voice notes, itineraries. One email caught my eye, a hotel confirmation from the Houston conference. Not Houston, Atlanta. A suite, king bed, room service at 1:15 a.m. My hand shook as I downloaded it, adding it to the growing archive labeled Jenna's Other Life. Messages from Brandon piled up. "Can't wait to see you. Let's make it real soon." Her replies, "It's complicated, but I'm trying." Complicated. That's what she called our marriage. The worst was a voice note, her voice soft, conspiratorial. "It'll all be finalized soon. He suspects nothing." I played it again, each word a hammer to my chest. I screen-recorded it, emailed it to myself, backed it up on a flash drive I hid in a hollowed-out book on our bedroom shelf, a gag gift she'd bought me years ago to hide my chocolate. Now, I hid her truth. I worked methodically, organizing files. Messages, photos, receipts, travel. Every piece was a brick in the wall I was building, not to trap her, but to free myself. I called Nate, needing his steady voice. He met me at the pier, the Savannah River churning gray under a cloudy sky. Gulls screeched overhead, and the air smelled of salt and diesel. Nate leaned on the railing, his flannel shirt flapping in the wind. "You okay?" he asked, eyes searching mine. I told him about the laptop, the messages, the restaurant. My voice cracked when I mentioned the spreadsheet. Future home, my name listed like a line item. Nate didn't flinch, just listened, his silence a kind of strength. "She's not just cheating," I said. "She's rewriting our life without me." He nodded, squinting at the water. "You've got the truth now, Mark. Question is, what do you do with it?" His words were simple, but they landed hard. "You don't have to decide today," he added. "But don't let her make you feel small. You're worth more than this." I gripped the railing, the cold metal grounding me. Nate clapped my shoulder, a quiet promise he'd be there, no matter what. Back home, I sat in the dining room, the laptop still open, the flash drive heavy in my pocket. Jenna texted she'd be home soon, some excuse about grabbing coffee with a friend. I didn't respond. My mind kept circling back to the office, her badge unlocking the door, Brandon following like he belonged there. It wasn't just an affair. It was a choice, deliberate, planned. The spreadsheet wasn't a daydream. It was a blueprint, and I was the collateral. That night, she came home, all smiles, carrying a takeout bag like nothing was wrong. "Thought we could have Thai," she said, setting it on the counter. Her hair was loose, her cheeks flushed, but her eyes darted away when I looked at her. "Sound good," I said, my voice even though my pulse raced. We ate in silence, the clink of forks deafening. I watched her twist noodles around her chopsticks, the same hands that had touched him, and I felt a strange calm settle over me. Not peace, but clarity. I wasn't the man who'd ignore the cracks anymore. After dinner, she lingered in the kitchen, washing dishes, humming softly. I stood in the doorway, testing the waters. "So how's work? Any big plans coming up?" Her hands paused under the faucet, just for a second. "Same old," she said, too breezy. "Got a girls' trip in a couple weeks, though. Me, Rebecca, Mia. Lake house wine, you know." She smiled, but it didn't land. I nodded, my mind flashing to a text from Mia last month, confused when I'd mentioned the trip. "What trip?" She'd said. Another lie, stacking up like cards in a house ready to fall. "Sounds fun," I said, turning away, my decision made. No more waiting for her to confess. No more hoping she'd choose me. I'd find the rest of the truth myself. Later, while she brushed her teeth, I checked her bag again, heart pounding. The velvet box was still there, but now I noticed a return slip beneath it. Neiman Marcus, purchased in-store, Atlanta, 4 days ago, the day she claimed she was in Houston. My blood ran cold. I slipped the slip back, closed the bag, and sat on the bed, staring at the framed photo on our dresser. Us on a beach, 3 years ago, laughing in the sunlight. It felt like a lie now, a relic from a life that no longer existed. I turned it face down, the glass cool against my fingers, and knew this was only the beginning. The thread was unraveling, and I had to pull it, no matter what it revealed. The dining room was a battlefield, though it didn't look like one. The table, where we'd once laughed over board games with friends, now held my laptop, a flash drive, and a folder of printed screenshots, evidence of Jenna's other life. I'd spent the day preparing, my hands steady but my heart racing. The photos from Leona's, the hotel receipt from Atlanta, her voice notes saying, "He suspects nothing." Every piece was a bullet, and I was ready to fire. But not in anger. Anger burns out. This was colder, sharper, a need to see her face the truth she'd built without me. Jenna was upstairs, humming as she changed after her coffee with a friend. I played my part all day, smiled at her texts, nodded at her stories, even kissed her goodbye that morning. Inside, I was unraveling, each lie she told a thread pulling loose. The girls' trip she'd mentioned, the one Mia knew nothing about, was the final straw. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was a detective in my own marriage, and the case was closed. All that was left was the confrontation. I decided to set the stage with care, to trap the lie and watch it squirm. "Hey, Jen," I call, my voice calm. "Let's do dinner tonight. Early anniversary thing, just us." She poked her head out of the bedroom, surprise flickering in her eyes. "Tonight? Really?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll cook. Stay in. Keep it simple." She hesitated, probably calculating if she had other plans, but nodded. "Okay, sounds nice." Her voice was soft, but I caught the edge, a wariness she couldn't hide. I grilled steaks, opened a bottle of Pinot Noir, our wine, from a vineyard we'd visited years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. I lit candles, played our old playlist, the one we'd made when we were still dreaming of a future together. Nostalgia was my weapon, a reminder of what she was throwing away. Jenna came down in leggings and a loose sweater, her hair down, looking like the woman I'd fallen for. She smiled, relaxing into the scene, the tension in her shoulders easing. "This is sweet, Mark," she said, sipping her wine. "Feels like old times." I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah, it does." But it didn't. Not for me. We ate, the music filling the silence, her laughter and my small talk sounding forced. I watched her, memorizing the way she twisted her fork, the way her eyes avoided mine. She was playing a role, and I was done being her audience. After dinner, she offered to help with dishes. "No, go relax," I said, my voice steady. "I've got this." She wandered to the living room, wine glass in hand, oblivious to the storm waiting. I moved to the dining room, setting the trap. The laptop was open, the flash drive plugged in, a folder labeled "Open Me" on the screen. Inside, for files, a PDF of the Atlanta hotel invoice, a screen recording of her chat with Brandon, her voice note promising it'd be finalized soon, and the future home spreadsheet, my name listed like a pawn. Next to the laptop, a physical folder held printed screenshots, texts, receipts, the Neiman Marcus return slip. Everything was ready. "Jen, can you come here?" I called, my pulse hammering but my tone even. She walked in, still holding her glass, her steps slow. "Yeah." Her eyes landed on the laptop, the folder, the flash drive. She froze, her face draining of color. "What's this?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Your other life," I said, calm but unyielding. I clicked play on the voice note. Her voice filled the room. "It'll all be finalized soon. He suspects nothing." She gasped, her hand shaking as she set the glass down, wine sloshing onto the table. "Mark, don't. Let me finish." I pointed to the folder. "Texts, receipts, hotel records, a budget for your new life with Brandon, using my money, my name." My voice stayed low, but each word landed like a stone. "You didn't just cheat, Jen. You planned." She sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered, but her voice cracked, the lie crumbling. Tears welled, but I didn't soften. I'd seen her cry before, when we lost our dog, when her mom was sick. This was different. This was guilt, not grief. "How long?" I asked, my eyes locked on hers. She swallowed, staring at her hands like they'd betray her too. 6 months. The words were a punch, though I'd known the answer. 6 months of lies, of her pulling away while I convinced myself it was stress, work, anything but this. "Were you ever going to tell me?" My voice was quieter now, not accusing, just empty. "I didn't know how," she said, her voice breaking. "It wasn't supposed to go this far." I leaned back, the weight of her words settling. But it did. You didn't just fall into this, Jen. You chose it. Every text, every trip, every lie. I opened the spreadsheet, the screen glowing with her plans. You were building a home. With him. Using me. She flinched, tears streaming now. Mark, I didn't mean to hurt you. I got lost. It was stupid, I know, but I didn't want to lose you. You already did, I said, my voice steady, though my chest burned. The moment you wrote, he suspects nothing. You lost me. She sobbed, her shoulders shaking, but I felt no urge to comfort her. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by this stranger who'd rewritten our life. Can I explain? She pleaded. How it happened? How we got here? You already did, I said, pointing to the laptop. Step by step, in your messages, your plans. I've read it all. She tried again, desperate. I didn't expect to fall for him. It just happened. That hit harder than I expected. Not because she loved him, but because she said it so casually, like tripping into betrayal was an accident. Don't. I cut her off. Don't call that love. You don't destroy someone you love. I didn't want this, she whispered, her eyes glassy. But you did it, I said, standing. I'm going to bed. Sleep wherever you want tonight. I walked to the stairs, pausing to set her suitcase by the banister, the same one that held the watch, the card, the start of this nightmare. She didn't move, just sat there, staring at the truth she couldn't outrun. Upstairs, I locked the bedroom door, a first in our marriage. I heard her pacing below, floorboards creaking, cabinets opening and closing. At one point, she stood outside the door, her breath audible, but she didn't knock. Neither of us spoke. The house felt hollow, the warmth of our life sucked out by her choices. I didn't sleep, just lay there, the framed photo on the dresser still face down, its absence louder than any argument. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done hoping, done pretending, done being the fool. By morning, I knew what came next. Not a fight, not a reconciliation, but a reckoning. I call a lawyer, freeze our accounts, protect what was mine. Jenna had made her plans, and now I'd make mine. The man I'd been, trusting, forgiving, was gone. In his place was someone new, someone who'd survived the worst and wasn't afraid to walk away. The house was empty when I woke, the silence no longer heavy, but final. Jenna was gone. No note, no goodbye, just a text at 6:14 a.m., keys on the counter. I am sorry. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the keyring glinting under the morning light, our initials engraved on a charm we'd bought on our honeymoon. It felt like a relic now, a piece of a life that no longer fit. I checked the guest room. Her clothes, her scent, her presence, all vanished. The closet gaped, half empty, and the air was clean, as if she'd never been here. I locked the front door, called my lawyer, and gave the green light. The evidence, chat logs, receipts, that damning spreadsheet, would speak louder than I ever could. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I moved forward, mechanical but deliberate. The lawyer was efficient, freezing our joint accounts within hours, ensuring the mortgage and savings stayed mine. Jenna's plans, so carefully laid out in her future home budget, unraveled in court. Her written intentions, her use of my name, turned against her. She didn't fight. Maybe she knew she'd lost more than assets. By Friday, the house was on the market, and I was packing for Nashville, a new job, a new city, a new start. I kept only what I needed: clothes, books, a single photo of us on that beach, not for nostalgia, but as a reminder of what I'd survived. The move was quiet. I rented a small apartment overlooking the Cumberland River, its waters a steady hum outside my window. Work kept me busy. Designing buildings felt like rebuilding myself, brick by brick. But nights were harder, the silence creeping in, whispering questions I couldn't answer. Had I missed the signs? Could I have saved us? Nate called once, his voice warm through the phone. You're doing the right thing, man. Keep moving. His words anchored me, a reminder I wasn't alone. A year later, on a rainy afternoon, I ducked into a Nashville bookstore, its shelves a refuge from the storm. That's where I met Emily. She stood by the poetry section, holding a worn copy of Rilke, her dark hair tucked behind one ear. I made a half-joke. Hiding from the world in here? She smiled, her eyes sharp but kind. Sometimes books are better than reality. We talked about Rilke, rain, the way cities change you. Coffee turned into walks into nights on her balcony, her quiet presence a balm I didn't know I needed. One evening, Under a sky streaked with pink, I told her everything. The watch, the card, Brandon, the spreadsheet, the confrontation. I didn't paint myself as a hero or Jenna as a villain. Just laid out the truth, raw and unfiltered. Emily listened, her gaze steady, no interruptions, no platitudes. When I finished, she said, "That must have been so lonely." Her words hit harder than sympathy, cracking open a truth I'd buried. I nodded, unable to speak, and she handed me a mug of tea, her fingers brushing mine. The warmth spread, not just from the mug, but from her, from the possibility of something new. Days later, an email from Jenna landed in my inbox. Subject, "I'm sorry." The preview showed the first line. "I never told you Brandon was married, too." My stomach twisted, not from pain, but from the clarity it brought. She'd known, and still built her plans on lies, hurting not just me, but another life. I deleted the email without reading further. Her truth was hers to carry now, not mine. I turned to Emily, who was reading on the couch, her presence a quiet promise. "You okay?" she asked, glancing up. I nodded, and for the first time I meant it. I sold the beach photo at a flea market the next week, letting it go with a stranger's dollar bills. It wasn't about erasing the past, but making room for the present. Emily joined me for coffee that day, sharing her own story. A brother lost to illness, a grief she'd carried alone. "The world breaks sometimes," she said, her voice soft but sure. "But you learn to build a new one." Her words echoed Nate's, a thread connecting the people who'd held me up when I couldn't stand. The divorce finalized quietly, the cabin we'd been remodeling awarded to me. I sold it too, the money funding a small studio where I sketched designs late into the night. Nashville became home, not just a place but a feeling, freedom, hard won. I wasn't healed, not fully, but I was lighter, unburdened by the weight of her lies. Brandon emailed once, a weak apology. "I thought you two were done." I didn't reply. He was a footnote, irrelevant. One night, Emily and I walked along the river, the city lights dancing on the water. She slipped her hand into mine, and I felt something shift. Not love, not yet, but trust, fragile and new. I thought of Jenna, of the house we'd filled with dreams, now sold to strangers. Betrayal hadn't broken me. It had stripped away the illusions, showing me who I was. Stronger, not because I'd won, but because I'd walked away. I kept the keyring, not as a keepsake, but as a marker. One day, I left it on a bookstore shelf, tucked inside a copy of Rilke, where Emily and I'd first talked. A small act of final letting go. The rain had stopped, and the sky was clear, stretching wide above me. For the first time in years, I didn't look back. I stepped forward, not whole but honest, ready for whatever came next.